In this video, we're going to talk about how to convert a decimal number to a hexadecimal. So, how can we do this? Well, first, you need to understand that the decimal number is based on a base 10 system. Now, what about the hexadecimal system? Notice that it's composed of two words, hexa and decimal. Hexa corresponds to 6. Decimal, as we could see here, corresponds to 10. And so, if we add 6 plus 10, this will give us 16. So the hexadecimal memory system is base 16 system. Now, you need to know the numbers that corresponds to the hexadecimal system from the decimal system, like this. So, the number 0 in the decimal system has the same value in the hexadecimal system. So, 0 is corresponds to 0. 1 is corresponds to 1. 2 is corresponds to 2. 3 is corresponds to 3. 4 is corresponds to 4. 5 is corresponds to 5. 6 is corresponds to 6. 7 is corresponds to 7. 8 is corresponds to 8. 9 is corresponds to 9. Now, once you get 10, that's where it changes. 10 doesn't correspond to 10. 10 in the decimal system corresponds to A in the hexadecimal system. 11 in a decimal system corresponds to B. So I'm gonna write it here. 12 is corresponds to C. 13 is corresponds to D. 14 is corresponds to E. 15 is corresponds to F. And you stop at 15 because when you include 0 going up to 15, that's 16 numbers, and so the hexadecimal system is based on 16 different numbers and letters. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to convert a decimal number to a hexadecimal number. So, let's begin. Let's start with 689. So, how can we convert 689, which is a base 10 number, that's a decimal number, into a hexadecimal number? How can we do this? The first step is to take 689 and divide it by 16. So 689 divided by 16 is equals to 43.0625. So here we have an integer of 43. And then we need to find a remainder. To find a remainder, multiply 16 by 0.0625. So 16 times 0.0625 is equals to remainder 1. Then you start with this number and 43 divided by 16. So 43 divided by 16 is equals to 2.6875. So I'm gonna put 2 and 16 times 0.6875 is equals to remainder 11. And 2 divided by 16. And now, we really don't need to do the division here because 16 is going to 2. So we could say it's 0 remainder to 2. But if you did it, let's say if you taken 2, when you divide it to 16, is equals to 0.125. So looking at this number, you'll see that we need to put 0 here. And then if you multiply 16 times by the point of 0.125, you'll get 2. So we were gonna focus on these numbers 2, 11, and 1. So I'm gonna write it here. 2, 11, and 1. So the remainders, you want to convert them to hexadecimal numbers. 2 as decimal is 2 as a hexadecimal, and based on the chart that we wrote earlier, 11 corresponds to B. So I write it B. And 1 as decimal is 1 as a hexadecimal. Now, 2 is the most significant digit, and 1 is the least significant digit. So we need to write it in this order from the most to the least significant digit. So therefore, 689 in the base 10 system as a decimal is 2B1 as a hexadecimal, so we can write a subscript of 16 to indicate that this is a hexadecimal number, and that's how we convert a decimal number to a hexadecimal number. So this is the result.